And I think it's going to be clear in this episode, we're not making this about anti-Semitism. We're actually making this about everyone else. This is an October 8th moment, where maybe on October 8th, you thought we were just talking about the October 7th tragedy. We're not. We're talking about the reaction to it. Yeah. And the same reaction to October 7th by people ripping down hostage posters and celebrating massacring people at a dance festival, like those are the same people dancing on Charlie Kirk's grave and celebrating Charlie Kirk, using political violence for ideas you don't like. These are the same people and the same animating ideologies. Welcome back to
Mommy's House.
All right. This felt like another urgent episode to do because in the wake of what happened to Charlie Kirk, I am already seeing what I anticipated happening, which is the framing of this tragedy as how do we tie this to Charlie's advocacy for Israel? How do we tie this to his pro-Israel views and his questions on Israel more recently? And in the form of Tim Dillon having this podcast. And it was we're fans of Tim Dillon. We've been since the beginning of the podcast. But for his instinct after the assassination of Charlie Kirk to say, let me have on Max Blumenthal to discuss it. One of the most prominent anti-Zionist writers from the Gray Zone or whatever his thing, I think it's Gray Zone, where even though there's no evidence that this is about Israel, let's assume it is and go there. That just tells you so much about the state of affairs and the pathology that has seeped into the culture that whatever the politics of the shooter is, which we can talk about, or the presumptions as such, there's just this fertile ground to turn it into this.
So backing up for a second, just to catch up, Charlie Kirk was assassinated, less than a week ago? Mm-hmm. Saturday night, Tim Dillon came out with an episode, I think within 24 hours, it had 1 million views.
Did you get the feeling that he was only afraid of reputational damage or, losing money, or did his fears extend to his life?
Well, that's what Harrison Smith, who is a personality at InfoWars, the pro-Trump outlet, has said. Almost a month before Charlie Kirk was killed, he said Charlie Kirk fears that Israel will kill him if he continues ahead, providing space in the largest conservative youth organization in American history for Israel critics and even anti-Zionists. I can't see any hard material evidence that Israel had him killed, but there's this fear when you go against the Israel lobby and you're that powerful. And it's a fear that I've been told Donald Trump shares. I've been told that by
that was my next question.
Several Trump insiders.
Does the President of the United States fear for his life?
Yes, obviously he fears for his life, and I was told that he feared for his life before the 2 assassination attempts, one coming within a millimeter of striking his head. Let's not forget about that.
But just to clarify, he doesn't fear for his life because of Ireland.
I've been told, yes, that Israel is a major source of concern for Trump. Think about it. What would happen
if the president
Here's what he said. They're presenting the argument that there's no reason to think Mossad killed Charlie Kirk, but there is reason to think that there was a lot of pressure from Israel on Charlie Kirk in the weeks before his death, and perhaps that pressure is now extended to President Trump. And he says there's no hard evidence of it. This is all conjecture. You would think it might be met with like a shrug, but it's hugely popular. Tim Dillon usually doesn't get 1 million views. I track this up pretty closely. It's usually like 250K, 400K.
And the narrative is popular, you're saying?
Yeah. The narrative is very popular to immediately say, in my view, in the first 48 hours after Charlie Kirk's death, the only consensus was we have some real problems in this country. There are some real foundational issues right now that both left and right have to come to some kind of solution around because this is scary.
Yes.
That went straight from that to unless this was just the Mossad and we don't have any problems.
And I think it's going to be clear in this episode, we're not making this about anti-Semitism. We're actually making this about everyone else. We're making this about the West and the civilizational things we want to preserve.
Right.
That's the whole point. When I made this video after this, and I'm said, this is an October 8th moment, where maybe on October 8th, you thought we were just talking about the October 7th tragedy. We're not. We're talking about the reaction to it. Yeah. And the same reaction to October 7th by people ripping down hostage posters and celebrating massacring people at a dance festival, like those are the same people dancing on Charlie Kirk's grave and celebrating Charlie Kirk, using political violence for ideas you don't like. These are the same people and the same animating ideology. So I want to talk about that binary left and right.
Forget who they're blaming it on. It doesn't matter if they blamed it on the Jews or like the Irish. The fact is they're scapegoating something instead of taking a look in the mirror and seeing what solutions we need to come to in this country.
Right. And I mean, Jews are often a scapegoat, but like using them aside, any kind of thing that can say it's not on us to fix, there's no problem here, it's some foreign actor, and you could say whatever motivates that, it shows you how far the pathologies have gone. But I want to focus on one thing you said, and then we'll go on to the next part, which is pressure. They talk about this word pressure, and I find it so interesting that whenever people these days now are trying to cover the pro-Israel side and critique it, it's always framed as pressure. Israel, people who speak out on behalf of Israel are pressuring conservatives, are pressuring people. But when they have disagreements, when Tim Dillon has something to say, or Candace Owens, or any of these other people, that's disagreement, that's dissent, that's fighting for the truth. They're trying to find the truth. It's never pressure when they do it.
So specifically with Turning Point,
Yeah.
the Israeli billionaires were pressuring Charlie Kirk, but his movement itself, their movement against Israel was organic and natural, and they're seeing the truth now.
Yes, waking up, noticing.
Right.
It is such an important thing because this is all about framing. And ask yourselves, everyone, ask yourself, what is more likely that Charlie Kirk, who before all this is a Zionist, outspokenly pro-Israel and conservative, and has a lot of donors and people that supported him that are in line with his agenda, where's the pressure coming from in his movement that now all of a sudden has this ascendant, woke right, anti-Israel, anti-Semitic bent to it that's fomenting this suspicion and conspiracy, irrationally so? Where's the pressure coming from? Who's actually putting pressure on him? I want to just be clear. I can agree to the fact that he's got a lot of donors and he's got a lot of Jewish donors that support what he's doing, but it's not that they have an agenda that they're demanding Charlie Kirk follow. Charlie Kirk had an agenda that they believed in, and they use funding because they don't have podcasts and they don't have a public voice or an audience to support an agenda they support, a conservative agenda, a family values agenda, and yes, a pro-Israel agenda that Charlie, his entire career, was in line with. So if you want to talk about pressure, if you want to talk about conspiracy and who's pressuring him, it's that side that was pressuring him to try to go into darker corners and dark places and nefarious places. It's not the people who've been in line with him since the very beginning. And so that has to be said, just to clarify. Ask yourself honestly, the people who've agreed with him all along on everything, who were the people drifting and trying to drag a movement that I think has a lot of positive things to it in terms of, I mean, I'm in a lot of ways conservative and family values oriented and trying to save the West. Who's trying to demoralize the West? Yeah. I would say it's the Tuckers and the Candaces and the people in the dark corners of the world that are pulling you in a bad direction.
And specifically to address what Max Blumenthal was saying, like in the allegation that the story he's crafting basically is the Mossad built up Charlie Kirk, he didn't do it on his own.
This is the narrative.
This is the narrative. Yeah. And then because like they weren't sure where he might go in the future, they got rid of him.
Oh my God!
Like so I'm saying so that's the story. Like if you are the Mossad, like now what's your plan? like the one guy that like you were able to meet with and like maybe talk to. Like now he's gone and now where's the movement without him? Like what's your next move? It doesn't make any. Even if you buy into this intelligence conspiracy, it still doesn't make any sense to me.
If you follow their logic. And they said it about Trump too. Does Trump fear for his life about Israel? Is Israel pressuring? I'm like, look, you mean to tell me, even if let's say I'll go there with you for a second. Let's play this game. You mean to tell me that the two people, one in politics and one in activism, who stood against the things in their movement that were going astray on Israel, they were the forces that were like holding the line in terms of being able to try to confront some of the forces and elements in their movement that were either anti-Semitic or anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, turning on Israel. They were the people standing against that. Trump has been the most pro-Israel candidate arguably in history, and he is Zionist and supports Israel. So why would he fear for his life on Israel? Like you mean to us? Why wouldn't they take out Obama then, or other people that were, I think policy-wise damaging to Israel, giving Palestinian Authority millions of dollars, the Iran deal? If they had the power then, you don't think they would have done it then? again, this is even on their own rationale makes zero sense in terms of incentive structure. I don't even like to go there because it's so ugly and baseless. But if we're gonna go there, it falls on its face in any scenario you play.
I really
it's ridiculous.
I love Tim Dillon. He's one of my favorite podcasters and comedians because he does understand the role that intelligence plays, and he does confront it and say like we all know they're here, we all know they really exist. So when something happens, why can't it actually be attributed to intelligence? Meaning we know the CIA assassinated people and installed governments. Like, we know that happened.
Okay.
But then when you explain something and you say it was probably the CIA, everyone's like, no, that's impossible. But we do know it exists. Like we know.
What's your point there?
My point is that for someone as sharp as Tim, this seemed like a really lazy, dumb argument to entertain on your podcast the week after Charlie Kirk died.
Yeah, and it's very low resolution because you've even said there's no evidence, there's nothing. But I'm going to go here. Yeah. And I don't do this with other intelligence agencies, and I don't do this with. I don't assume MI6 or CIA.
Right.
I don't say, well, let's look at MI6. You know, the James Bond. Watch this game. You know, Michael, I realized something. Okay, James Bond movies for years turned American audiences in favor of the MI6. They had these gorgeous guys. Everybody wanted to bang these people. Men wanted to be these people. It was
propaganda.
I wanted to be inside these people. Okay? And for years and years, decades after decades, we turned the American people in favor of the MI6. Now, why would they want to do that? Why would the MI6 want people in favor of them? Maybe so they can continue their covert operations behind the scenes, okay? Yeah. For a show.
But by the way, if you had lost the colonies in a Revolutionary War, wouldn't you want them back at some point?
If you think about the humiliation the UK experienced, they never got it back. And I think I want those colonies back. I want them back.
And let's talk about tea for a second. You know how much money people are making on tea? Don't you think?
I like coffee, but I'll take tea. I'll take tea.
If there's that much money in tea and taxes, you're going to want it back somehow.
So what you're saying is it isn't Ireland that wants the United States back. Maybe Northern, maybe the part of Ireland's part of the UK. It isn't other countries. If I was the leader, they were humiliated during Iraq. Tony Blair was humiliated. And they lost public opinion, and they're losing themselves. The UK's losing itself from immigration. I would make a series of movies using cinematic propaganda to turn America in favor of the UK and its heroes like James Bond, who might be a real person, might not. We don't know. we love James Bond. We turn American audiences in favor of us so that we can conduct assassination experiments and turn America inside itself so that we can reclaim power. We know the UK wants power. Right. We could play this game all day, and everything I said is totally nonsensical, but it's a nice little story, and it's very cinematic. So I'm going to take the arguments on, but I could spin this game, and the level of depth I go to is not really deep. That's the whole thing. Under the guise of, I'm showing you the truth, I think you're actually playing into a propaganda game that's been happening to you.
Right. So the next conversation is that everybody is susceptible to Israeli propaganda, but nobody is susceptible to like Qatari propaganda or Hamas propaganda. I even heard Crystal Ball say on Breaking Points, so somebody brought up this idea that there was Hamas propaganda and they laughed it off. They're like, yeah. They just say like Hamas is some kind of like propaganda machine. Like as if that's not something they even involve themselves with. Why would they?
Yes.
Why would they have to?
Yes.
It's so...
Where's the suspicion on that? Yeah. The Iranian bot farms, the Bangladeshi bot farms that are amplifying posts and causing a lot of all this stuff.
And they're so sharp. These people understand propaganda.
Yeah.
They just don't understand it when it comes from anyone other than the Israelis. It's so odd to me.
Yeah, I find it a
really
massive blind spot. The other thing I want to discuss is that in trying to assess the aftermath of this and the dividing lines, right? I am sympathetic to the view that it's unfair to both sides, this kind of thing. It's just not true. Batya Sargon, I don't know what her full last name.
Ungar Sargon.
Yeah, Ungar Sargon said, like, I will call for cooler heads to prevail, but I will not call to stop telling the truth. So there's immediately this instinct because I identify the motives of the shooter and where he came from, which movement, because we want to pin it on a movement. And part of me sympathizes with that because you see the far left. And all you have to do is look at the reactions to something like this. It verifies what we're saying. The far left, the Marxist bent, is all about no individual rights. It's all about movements, bourgeoisie versus proletariat. We are for political violence for people who disagree with us. We are for ruling these people. They want power, and they're willing to use political violence to get it. And they celebrate the brutal murder of an innocent, good person who may disagree with them politically, but they celebrate it. So that tells you something. and what's written on the things. But you could say that there's a jump to conclusion as to people wanted it to be this. They wanted him to be dating a trans person and all of these things, that it's part of this movement. And I identify that threat. At the same time, if we're just talking about rhetoric and we limit it to rhetoric, hyperbole does apply to both sides. We all use kind of language. When I talk about Bernie Sanders, I'll use hyperbole. And that's, I'm okay with that in a sense. I do think there's been a disproportionate amount coming from the left to the right. Maybe I have a confirmation bias there with the way they talk about Trump and dehumanize Trump and dehumanize their opponents politically. And Trump will say, she's a fascist, Kamala's a fascist, totally. Like, the hyperbole and getting people worked up is one thing. That's still in the realm of speech. It's who's taking more actions of violence. I think that disproportionately does come from the left.
Right now.
Yes. But I will say this. I think the dividing line isn't a left versus right thing as much as it's an us versus them thing. And who's on the us side and who's on the them side? Pro-civilization, pro-free speech and dialogue and working out contentious ideas, even for people you disagree with, and people who can't. Right. And the incompatibility is, do you resort to violence in the face of speech? Do you call speech violence and conflate it and meet it with violence? Or do you only meet violence with violence? Like, the only time you use it is to defend yourself, and that's the only time it's appropriate. And that's where the line really is, because there's people I've like passionately disagreed with in the Israel space and all that I'm not going to wish physical harm to. Right. And I think that's really where we need to divide that line.
And this was illustrated by the fact, until they caught the assassin, you could have gone in any direction with who it was. Was it someone on the far left? I could see that. Was it someone on the really far right, like who was maybe like unhappy about Charlie Kirk's like
too Jewish, too pro-Jewish.
Exactly.
Not hateful enough.
Was it a jihadist? Like it could be anyone at this point.
What does that tell you?
Which just illustrates the fact that it's not about people, it's about these ideas. It's almost like this virus has infected all sides, and anyone at this point can be infected.
The pathology is everywhere now. The fact that it could have been these various movements that caused violence means that violence now exists in a couple of several dark pockets. We need to be honest about where those are. It's not everyone's equally bad, everyone's equally good. They try to do this, Hamas attacks Israel, well, there's a conflict and all this kind of stuff. There's an attempt to want everyone to be equal and guilty, and therefore no one's guilty. Yeah. You don't have to solve the problem. But I think if we want to effectively identify those pockets you're talking about, we have to draw those kind of binaries.
Yeah. And Barry Weiss, I think, said it really well, where she said the center has to really step up, and not in a blah way. Like, I just want everyone to be okay, and I don't want to pay attention to news, but in a very passionate way.
Radical way.
Yeah, here are our values. Here's what we believe in. Here are the fundamental virtues of our country, and we need to radically and very vocally be promoting them and arguing about them and talking about them really loudly.
I think that calling it the center might be a strategic flaw, because the center implies neutrality. I don't take a side. She is taking a side, and I'm echoing Barry's sentiment there. It's a side that is principled, that is dedicated to a free society that's tolerant, unless we are met with violence. We don't tolerate violence. So self-defense is a part of that. It's a civilizational divide. And I think that's what she's talking about. When she calls it the center, people get confused because they vanilla, center. Right. You don't take a position. You're just neutral. Center doesn't mean neutral. What she's talking about is that whether you're left, right, or center, we all agree that we're talking. Whether it's people in the Israel conversation, and it gets gray when someone's advocating using speech for violence, or apologizing and making excuses, like these kids on college campus are not hurting anybody by talking, but it's a culture that's very disturbing to witness. And I think that's what she's saying.
What would you call it if not the center? Any ideas?
No, because it's a coalition of multiple views that all agree on basic principles. I don't know what you call it. You call it pro-West, pro-civilization. That doesn't exist on the spectrum, because the pro-West means there is a spectrum that we tolerate, and the only thing we don't tolerate is intolerance or violence in that sense.
I think it's also pro-solution versus more fighting.
Pro-destruction.
Pro-building as opposed to pro-destruction.
Right.
We want to figure this out rather than solely watch our own demise on TV.
And if you think about, and then you can draw the proper parallels. Woke right, demoralization, doubting that the country's good, saying that Trump is compromised, all of these things have an effect on your audience to not believe in their country. And the same way on the far left, patriarchy and our institutions are disgusting and corrupt and misogynistic and racist. I don't believe in preserving any of that. And so both sides don't want to preserve what's good about the country. They want to destroy it. Those are the proper parallels.
Preservationists.
And who wants to build, who wants to preserve?
Conservationists.
Who wants, well, that's a conservative.
I know.
But who wants to preserve a certain set of principles and that have a political spectrum, that have disagreements in it, and the ability to do that? Like that tense area of free speech where it's really stress tested, and it has been over the past 2 years. I'm like, at the end of the day, most of the people involved in this fight for a while are talking. You know, whether it's Dave Smith versus Josh Hammer on Charlie Kirk's show, or Tucker Carlson even being there. And I can object to Tucker Carlson being there, but I'm saying it. Yeah. I'm not violently preventing anybody from talking. Or I can say we don't associate. Freedom of association is a part of free speech too. And I think the confusion of all of that has caused this Tower of Babel situation where people don't know where the divide is. And I'm trying to illustrate that in this conversation with you.
So I think the next topic we need to discuss, and probably the last one, is how it seems like October 7th and Charlie Kirk's assassination has somehow conflated with each other. Like what?
Well, there's a tie-in.
It seems like there's something has met in the middle between what the Jews have been screaming about for almost 2 years, and what now you can see, people like Dave Smith coming online to post Charlie Kirk's assassination, watching all the celebrations. There seems to be some sort of meeting of the minds.
Yes, I would say it's not about October 7th or Charlie Kirk's assassination that are necessarily related. It's the reactions to it is where the thread is. And I think people confused and wrote off the Jewish concerns and Zionist concerns after October 7th with, that's like a regional issue and that's your issue. And to one extent, in one respect it was, because it was an attack on Israelis and Jews. What does that have to do with America? What does that have to do with the West? That's your thing. I'm not going to get involved. But what we were also screaming at the same time, what we were screaming from the rooftops about was October 8th. And we were brushed off as being paranoid. And we're like, it's not anti-Semitism, simply anti-Semitism or just anti-Semitism. It's the indicator of what this means. The people celebrating on October 8th are marching in the street celebrating a massacre of good people, innocent people, and they're celebrating it, ripping down hostage posters. They are dehumanizing a sector of society for their own virtue and power and their own sense of self-aggrandizement. They're going to dehumanize them. That dehumanizing element, if you permit it, whether you have any connection to Israel or not, if you care about Western civilization, we cannot permit that. We have to all unite around calling that out, whatever your connection to Israel is. And maybe the mistake on our messaging is we tried to make it all about that and saying, well, you should feel bad for our community. And you should, because it was a terrible thing. But it's not about us. It's about all of us. Right. That was my message. I was trying to put that out, that this October 8th moment is the same thing as the September 11th moment. And I say September 11th in the sense of what happened after Charlie Kirk. After September 11th on September 12th, you did not see people celebrating in the street in America saying, yay, you didn't see that. But we see it now. Yeah. And I think it just shows how dark things have become, where people are celebrating this. Yeah. And it's here. These people are amongst us. They celebrate political violence against their opponents.
I think Jews for 2,000 years plus have really honed their self-preservation skills. And we have holidays that help us transmit those messages through the generations. We have traditions. We have rituals. And we all have an instinct of like when our safety is in jeopardy. And usually that comes when the societies around us begin to go into decline. And whether we can articulate that or express it, we can sense it. And I think on October 8th, we were trying to sound the alarm. Hey, something is very wrong in America and around the world. And we feel it, and we want to let you know about it too. Perhaps we should have package it like that, not as anti-Semitism's on the rise, but America's in decline. And I think more and more people now are paying attention to what we're saying. We're like, oh, you know what? Maybe you had a point.
The parallels are so ominous and so real. You're seeing people posting, hey, I lost 30,000 followers because I supported Charlie Kirk and spoke out in behalf of him and his family. Just like we lost thousands of followers for speaking out about Israel. Different issue, but the same reaction and the same demonic evil force, real evil force that's showing itself in the West. And we were told we're being paranoid Jews, whatever, it's a few crazies. And I even saw like Dave Smith at the time saying, look, don't rip down the hostage posters. It's not practical. It doesn't help the movement. But I think I saw a moment with him where he recognized this darkness that's leading a lot of people left and far right into this place.
The fight against anti-Semitism is the fight for the West. The fight for Israel is the fight for the West. And I think we need to extend our mission past Israel.
We've always said that. Nobody took it seriously. And I think they are starting to realize that what this is. Those people, if you go to Washington Square Park today and If you go to NYU, if you go to random campuses and you ask about Israel or whatever, even on October 8th, if you asked them, they would have supported it. If you asked about what happened to Charlie Kirk, they supported it. And it's so eerie and chilling. And that's where the dividing line is. Are you pro-civilization or are you anti-civilization? I think it's low resolution, even though there's truth to say it's left versus right, it's far left versus right, but there's also elements on the far right that agree with the far left. So that's where I think the dividing line needs to be focused on, and the emphasis needs to be focused on, so that you could create coalitions that have the same core principles.
And just to be clear, we're not saying someone has to be pro Charlie Kirk's ideas. The idea is to be pro not killing Charlie Kirk.
Yes, pro his right to say them.
Yes, I mean, something I said to you the other day is like, let's just say you think Charlie Kirk is a Nazi. You think he's a real Nazi. Do you know what Israel did when they captured real Nazis who ran concentration camps? They put them on trial and they executed them.
Right.
Like,
even as far as to go that.
if you think Charlie Kirk's a Nazi, then let's put him on trial and give him a fair trial.
Not only that, like, if all it takes to frame somebody like that is to call him that, then someone's going to call you that and kill you.
Right.
Like, if you care about your own self-preservation, don't start to push the Overton window to a point where the society says, if you disagree with me, I can smear you and mischaracterize your views and then kill you for it.
Right.
That's what these people... My point is, even if he's the things you say he is, you fight for his right to say them. And he isn't. I mean, the thing is, like, I just think it needs to be said. Like, it needs to be said. Because one of the things this points to is the inversion, the truth and anti-truth. This isn't just about... Like, you said something interesting to me the other day, that sometimes people believe a narrative because it's so false that it looks true. Can you talk about that for a second?
Something can be so perfectly false that you can mistake it for the truth.
Go on. Say better.
I mean, like in the example I brought in is like a Torah. I mean, we're getting easier, but a Torah can be written in Hebrew and Greek. Why? Like, Greece is such a perfect inversion of Torah principles that you have
ancient Greece, not now.
Yeah, ancient Greece, right? Ancient Greece, that you have to almost give it its due. Like, you have so perfectly found the wrong way to do this that we have to pay attention to it. And so, and then you responded with Jordan Peterson's idea that the opposite of truth
is
isn't
not lie.
false.
It's not a lie. It's anti-truth.
Right. Something so perfectly constructed to convey the opposite of what's true.
He was correct. Yeah, no, it's like there's a difference between something that's just not true and something that's anti-true. Even in the trans debate, a man is a man, a woman is a woman. A woman can be a man. Like, anti-truth, when you allow anti-truth into your society, that's when it can be compelling. People, it's so perverse, it's so inverted. And I think the conversation around Charlie, what was Charlie fundamentally trying to do? A Christian man with a wife and 2 children telling people what? Advocating for people to get married, have children, raise a family, have a job, be productive members of society. Values that to me are universally, be God-fearing, universally good. And in that goodness, they hated him for it. The elements that want to take him down, I think, are the antithesis of good. And among the realm of things he might say, and people can disagree with me on the politics of it and the political expressions of that, you know, but Charlie argued for your right to say them too. Yeah. In other words, he argued for the right for him to make his point of view and for you to make yours. And if you support killing him for his point of view, then you're supporting killing yourself for your point of view. That's the truth. Yeah. You are supporting a society that will kill you for yours, because if violence is the proper response to that and you support that, you're on the side of anti-civilization, and that's a world you wouldn't want to live in either. They just don't realize it yet, because they're setting themselves up to say, well, I should be killed for mine too. It's fair game. Yeah. And then it becomes a power struggle. Might is right, and you're setting yourself up for an authoritarian, tyrannical society. Yes. And that's frightening, that they're unwittingly even knowing that. It's just like, and it's just pure darkness, pure evil. It's anti-truth. So... Yeah. Anyway, we're reacting to the reaction. It seems already too soon. It hasn't even been a week, and you're just seeing this pour out, and the fertile grounds that have been made on the far left and far right for some of these things. It's so apparent, and making it shown.
I think this is the kind of thing we can't talk enough about. I got messages over the weekend of people being like, I don't understand this, but I'm legitimately depressed, and I wasn't even such a huge fan. I think people instinctually understand something prolific has happened. And it's more about...
Profound, you mean?
Sorry, profound, not really. Yeah, profound has happened, profoundly disturbing.
A shift, yeah.
And it's the kind of thing that we really can't talk enough about. And when we stop talking about it, I think it's actually more disturbing than when we keep talking about it.
I completely agree. This moment is chilling on every level, from the most personal to his world and the people in his life and all the personal tragedy of that. And in the same way, he had a profound effect on the culture. That's why the ripple effect of this kind of tragedy happening to him in this way has this effect, this sort of wake up. And I'm hoping people can see it the way we're illustrating of where the line is. It's not a, let's see if we can double down on Israel conspiracy, Jew conspiracy, who's behind. Let's get behind who's pro-civilization, Jew and Gentile alike, and who is not, Jew and Gentile alike. Those are where the enemies are, and that's who we need to fight. And that's what I hope happens in terms of the coalitions that form here, that we can wake up and cooler heads prevail to see that this is a civilizational battle, and it's not because I'm a paranoid Jew. It's that we've been sounding the alarm that this is where this was headed, and here we are. So let's keep up the good fight in speaking out and making those lines, I think, clear. We haven't done one of these in a while. Anyway.
We haven't done a live one of these in a very long time. This is nice.
So thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll keep trying to cover this and make sense of all this.
Yeah.
And we'll dedicate this one also to Charlie Kirk and his family and his memory.